Hello there, greetings, and welcome to the Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're here, it's Monday, time for another look back at a classic rock album, and I've chosen to go with Van Halen's 1984 album. So this, for most people, this is the beginning of the last album with David Lee Roth. That's where I'm trying to go. To me, this is the end of Van Halen. The band that went forth, well, pretty good, solid band. Not a band I follow, but did great stuff. Had some tremendous success with Sammy Hagar. But not really a band for me. I kind of end it with the Van Halen 1984. That was my last one. I've never really followed them after that. And I was fading from them a bit anyways because I saw this album in my time period. I saw this album as a commercial jump to commerciality. Probably Diver Down was as well. Diver Down was a little bit different because it had a lot of covers on it, but it also had some really strong stuff on it. Pretty much the same thing going on here. No covers though. This is all Van Halen here. So this album, for those of you who like to keep the stats, and I'm one of them, this was released January the 9th, 1984. Recorded at the 5150 studio in Studio City, California. That's, I believe that was Eddie Van Halen's own studio, and he recorded a few other albums there later as well. It's about 33 minutes in length, a little bit less than what I normally like in an album, but Van Halen tend to keep their albums fairly short in that time period. Label, Warner Brothers label, of course, on all of their original albums, and produced again by Ted Templeton. So this features the members of Van Halen: David Lee Roth, vocals; Eddie Van Halen, lead guitar, keyboards, and vocals as well. Michael Anthony on bass and vocals and bass synthesizers. And Alex Van Halen, the last one on this picture, on drums and percussion. I believe he did do some backing vocals as well. Could be wrong on that particular one, but I think I'm right. So there are a total of 9 tracks on this album. This is a strong album. It is, really. I didn't think that way when it first came out. I thought, oh, that's the end of Van Halen. I was getting out of them after Diver Down. I thought, this is way too commercial. They've gone completely pop. They're done. And then when they came out after David Lee Roth left, I was kind of 90% out, and then I heard their next album and was way out. But the truth of this album, and this was the only one of their original 6 that I didn't own until I started this channel. All the other ones I had owned in vinyl, and some of them in cassette, and then again in CDs once I got going. This one was the last one for me to get. And I had heard the whole thing before, but I just dismissed it. Basically taking up the anthem that they'd become a pop band. But the truth of the matter about this album is although some of their commercial stuff that did well on the radio, their singles, so they had 4 singles that made the radio, of which I think probably 3 of them were very kind of commercial sounding. The other one had its commercial elements, but was more along the lines of the Van Halen that I had come to love. And then the deep cuts are what make this a special album to me. So even though it's a commercial pop album on some parts of it, it also is almost a hard rock, heavy metal album on a lot of the other tracks, the deep cuts, which I think are the better songs on the album. So, yeah, they went through that phase, mostly because of the synthesizers, which had come aboard on Diver Down, and then took a whole new life of their own here with the opening track, and then on Jump, of course, and Panama, And a lot of the songs on this album dominated a lot by keyboards, more so than they had been previously. But even though that was going on, they still were holding on to some of that classic Van Halen sound, the heavy metal sound, or the fantastic rhythm section and heavy guitar riffing that went on throughout most of their career, and it continued here. So this album may be a band hitting on all cylinders because it's able to combine all of the elements into one album. So we're going to talk a little bit about each of the tracks. So the first track, 1984, the title track, is basically just a keyboard synthesizer sound part at the beginning, which is kind of cool. I didn't mind that. And it opens the album nicely, leads right into Jump, which is a very poppy, synthesizer-driven, catchy, up-tempo track. Yeah, very commercial sounding. Even the guitar solo, very commercial sounding. The keyboard solo also dominates this song and is also very commercial sounding. But it was a master hit for them. I think it was their only #1 hit. So Jump, first song. Second song, Panama, another big, massive hit for them. Very catchy, very upbeat, very poppy, very commercial sounding. The guitar riff dominates this particular track. The vocals are dominant by Roth. He's frontal on all of the tracks, but I think specifically this one is one of his more dominant ones here. The solo is heavy but very commercial sounding. The next track up, Top Jimmy, is one of the deep cuts, which I think deserves to get a lot more attention than it does. Killer guitar part here, very fast tempo. Vocals are typical Van Halen sounding vocals. Heavy rhythmatic section during the guitar solo, like just beefy as all hell. And definitely a metal consideration song, much different than these previous 3 tracks that we just talked about. Next up is Drop Dead Legs. This is the first track on side 2, I believe, or no, actually this is the last track on side 1. My apologies. Heavy guitar riff, very catchy beat, heavy rhythm section again, hard track, lots of heavy guitar solos and riffs going on here. The vocals and backing vocals are very frontal on this track too, so I like this track. In actual fact, I think this may be the best track on the album. It's my favorite, so I'm biased, but I think it's the best track on the album. Next track up is the one of the other commercial successful tracks, Hot for Teacher. This one was big with the videos, very big with the videos. Maybe the most watched one of all the songs on here. It's a fast-paced, almost speed metal-like track when it opens. Drums and guitar are very fast-paced here. It's a bit of a typical Van Halen sounding song, though. There's nothing really unusual about it. There's a lot of that chatting going on, that talking that they do on all of their albums when they're like kibitzing with each other. A lot of that going on here. The solo is a classic Eddie Van Halen solo on this track, yeah. So Hot for Teacher, I think it's better than Panama and Jump. I think the way I kind of think of them is Jump is the worst of the 4, then Panama, then this one, and then the next song we're going to do, I'll Wait, which I think is the best of the 4 commercial sounding tracks. Next up is I'll Wait, of course. Heavy, dominant, catchy keyboard riff going on here. Same thing with the rhythm section, very heavy, very dominant. The vocals are very strong, very frontal again. It's a catchy track, heavy commercial sound to it. The solo is strong and is really, this to me is a classic Van Halen track. I think of the 4 commercial songs that were singles on this album, I think this is the best of those tracks. Next up, Girl Gone Bad. So these last 2 tracks aren't as strong as some of the other stuff, but still really strong. Another heavy, fast-paced rhythm track. Very catchy vocals. The solo is really good here. All the metal-like track, one of the most metal-like tracks on the album, if you ask me. Slow part is very emotional. That closes the album. I think it's a strong track. And then we get to the House of Pain, which is the final track on the album. I like this one quite a bit. Maybe not as good as, it's maybe not my favorite, but definitely top 3 or 4 on the album. Heavy opening, another catchy beat, strong guitar and rhythmatic beat from the rhythm section. Very heavy metal-like track, maybe the most heavy metal track on the album. Those last 2 or 3, 4 tracks there, pretty heavy. Even Hot for Teachers a little bit heavy there, but the back side of this album, or the second side of this album, is much heavier than the first side. So that's my take on the album, 1984 from Van Halen. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please hit the like and subscribe. If you want to talk about Van Halen in the comment section, you can, or this album, 1984, or the change that would come after this album when Lee Roth left to be replaced by Sammy Hagar. Can do that as well. Were you a big Van Halen fan, or were you just kind of just the radio-friendly Van Halen stuff? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, and we will see you all next Monday night for another look back at yet another classic rock album. Take care, have yourself a good one, and goodbye.